Well, hello everyone. Eric Chappelle, Community Evangelist for InfraWorks 360. I want to thank you all for coming today. Our topic of the day is Collaboration 101 for InfraWorks 360. And in a moment, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Sara and Isaac, but before that, I just want to talk about a few things with our community and our webcast series. First of all, if this is your first time with us, welcome to our webcast series. We've been doing this twice a month on the first and third Wednesdays of the month since April. So I didn't count them up, but we've had quite a few of these now. And the goals of these webcasts is to ultimately bring you guys, the users, closer to the product team, the folks that are actually writing the code and coming up with the features that you end up using. And by doing so, we're giving you a chance to hear what we're up to and where we're going, give you a chance to ask questions and provide feedback, and just improve the experience of our product team producing something that you guys find useful. Our next webcast will be on Wednesday, October 21st, and if any of you attended the scripting webcast hosted by Wes Newman, that was a pretty popular topic, so much so that we've asked Wes to come back for a part 2. So if you want to get into running some very interesting customizations and getting InfraWorks to do things that it isn't originally designed to do, you'll find this very interesting. It does get into some coding, so it gets pretty deep, but Wes does a great job of keeping it at a level where everyone can understand. So highly recommend attending this webcast. If you missed the first one, it's been recorded, and I'll be talking in a moment about the different ways on the community site where you can get to the previous recordings of webcasts. Next, I want to do a quick poll. So I want to find out what everyone's usage level of InfraWorks 360 is. So if you don't mind, please choose an answer on the poll that has just popped up. I'll leave it open for about a minute or so. But we want to know, of the folks who are attending today, how are you using it, or how much are you using it, ranging from don't even have it installed to couldn't live without it. And it's interesting, the progression that we've seen down the list. So, when we first started holding this webcast, there were definitely more answers up toward I'd say the second and third choices. But now every time we have this webcast, we're seeing more people down in that fourth tier where they're using it regularly. So that's a good thing. That's the direction we want to be going. And that means adoption. So if you're new to InfraWorks 360 and not only just new to the webcast series, but new to the product in general, look at the trend that's developing here. We're definitely seeing adoption ramp up and more people using it, and more people using it regularly, more than they ever did before. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. And by the way, we had our winner was the fourth option. 40% of you said I regularly use it on some projects. So I'll close that down. I want to talk to you a little bit about our community. A central hub of our community is the community site. It's autodesk.com/InfraWorks360community. And from here, you can link out to many different aspects of our community, like the forum and the idea station. And InfraTips is a newer thing that's popped up in our community. I'll talk about that in a little more detail in just a second. We've also got the gallery where InfraWorks users can post work that they've done. It's a really interesting place to go, and it's amazing some of the things that people have done with this product that you would never have thought of. So it's a great place to get ideas and inspiration about what you might do with the product back in your company or organization. We've also got the social hub, as well as videos. So we post a lot of video content to YouTube, which feeds into a tab on the Community Center site. We've also got recordings of previous webcasts that you can access. So like I said, if you missed the first scripting webcast, you might want to review that before attending the second one, which will be 2 weeks from now. So you can actually review all of our webcast recordings right back to April, and I actually managed not to forget to record any of them. I am 10 for 10 or however many we've done, and that's something I'm worried about happening every time we do a webcast. And you'll be happy to know I remembered to press record on this one too. One of the highlights of our community is this infra tips page. I think we're up well over 40 infra tips now. These are quick productivity tips posted by Autodesk employees, primarily the product team, but also I've posted some, and we've got some people from other parts of the company. And we basically encourage everyone internally, if you come across something or have a great idea or want to talk about a new feature that maybe not everyone knows about, please post up here. And the idea is for these to be very quick and digestible, so you're not, you're not committing to a 30-minute video. You're only committing to a few minutes to read the post, get the message, and gain some productivity skill that's going to make you do things faster or more effectively. So I highly recommend you check out this this page. Easy way to get to it, just go to Google and type in infra tips, and it'll take you right there. It's the first hit. In the event that we talk about anything that is associated with a preview feature, we are required to show this statement for all of our webcasts, just in case we end up talking about something that's in preview. The gist of this is that it's important for you to know that anything that we put in preview, there's no guarantee that it's going to be in a future release of the product. The only guarantee that a feature will be in a future release is when you actually see it there. So don't take any preview feature as a promise of future technology availability. Throughout the webcast, we want to encourage you to ask lots of questions. Because of the size of our group, we can't open up the phone lines, but there is a questions window that you can type into. I'll be standing by to answer questions, and Isaac and Sarah will be tag teaming as far as who's speaking and who's answering questions. So please don't hold back. We're here, and the questions make the presentation that much more interesting. So we really want to encourage you to do that. Most of the questions we'll answer right there in the questions pane, but if there's something that's maybe come up a few times or something that is especially interesting to the group as a whole, then Isaac or myself will break in and ask the question on over the audio so that everyone can hear the question and the answer. So again, please don't hold back, ask lots of questions, and that includes comments too. If you have any comments or thoughts about what you're seeing, ways to improve it, whatever, please let us know. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Sara, and she's going to present to you Collaboration 101. Sara, it's all yours.
Thanks, Eric. I'll just show my screen and tell me when you can see it.
I can see it now.
Great. Okay, hi everyone. I'm just going to ask Isaac to come off mute, and he's going to start the presentation, and then I'll pick up in a bit.
Thank you, Sara. My name is Isaac Rodriguez, and I'm currently filling the role of product owner in the InfraWorks 360 cloud services team, which is involved in most of the collaboration features. So if you can go to the next slide, Sara.
Okay, there we go.
There it is. All right, so I just want to let you know about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to give you some explanation about what collaboration means in InfraWorks. And then we're going to talk about how you can collaborate with your design team and work together in the design that you need to work in parallel. And also in how to collaborate with anybody, outside of the project or outside even of your organization by sharing those designs and be able to provide feedback on the design so that you can see if you're going on the right track or if there are any changes that you can make. These are in our opinion, the most important parts of collaboration with InfraWorks, and some that infrastructure industry work is being done. So I'm going to give it back to Sara, and she's going to start talking about how all this works within InfraWorks.
Okay, thank you. So just to describe my role, user experience designer, I work with the development teams to help them make design decisions that balance technology with a good user experience. And I help to bring the voice of the customer into the team, make sure that the voice of the customer is heard, and help everyone keep an eye on the full workflow as we make decisions and move forward on development. So today, we're going to talk about two kinds of collaboration. The first is between team members that are editing the model. So the model is in the cloud, and each team member has a desktop of InfraWorks 360 installed, so they're working on the desktop version. And so they have full editing capabilities, and they collaborate by syncing with the cloud. They can edit anytime, anywhere, and when they sync, their changes are put into the cloud, and when the next person syncs, their changes go up and the team changes come down. So we'll talk about those workflows first, but there's another kind of collaboration that is done, to people maybe not in the design team, the engineering team, but stakeholders, clients, even the public. So the model is in the cloud, and there's ways to present it through web views and panoramas, through a browser. The public, even the public, can come and see featured parts of the model. Through a web scenario, again, you're using a web browser to view it. You can view it on an iPad as well. And in a scenario, people who log in with their A360 credentials can actually make comments about the design. And in the desktop, the designers can receive those comments from people viewing the scenarios. They can comment to each other, or they can comment out to the scenario. So those are the different ways of collaborating, and now we're going to go through the workflows in more detail. And what I've done, because there's quite a few workflows to cover in the time we have, I've recorded them so that we can get through them all in this time, but I'll pause and we'll talk about them if you want to dive into more detail. So the first thing we do, and this will be from my perspective, I'm one of, let's imagine I'm on the design team, and I'm inviting, and I have my own account. I'm an administrator of my own account, and I'm inviting team members to my group. So let's see how that works. So I have a cloud model here. I can see the icon that tells me it's been published to the cloud. It's in my own account in my default group. It's the Salzburg site model. And now I want to invite Isaac to my group. So I go to the top into the group membership interface. And now this is showing me all the groups that I have administrative capabilities over, and I'm going into my default group, and I have just one user in that group. That's myself. I'm going to add Isaac to it. So simply add a user, type in his email address, and this is the email he needs to log in with. And I'm going to give him a publisher role. Let me just pause here. I could have given him author or reader. I've chosen publisher. It defaults to publisher, but something to pay attention to is to what role you're giving people, and we'll cover the details in a moment. The other thing to note is that I could have set him up as an administrator to my account if I wanted to. You might want a handful of people that can also administer your account and invite users into your groups. But in this case I won't. I'll just give him a publisher role. And now that that's done, so he will receive an invitation to join the group. So now I'm just going to cover the roles. So let's start at the bottom. The lowest or the least number of permissions is the reader, so they can view the model. The author can do everything the reader can, plus they can edit and sync changes that they make inside the model. Publishers have the ability to publish, copy, upgrade, and delete models and web views for the group. So more permissions than the administrator has, all of the below, but also they're able to manage the groups and users across the account. So now we're going to look at it from Isaac's point of view. Maybe he can, Isaac, you can speak to this. Let's imagine that he's received my group invitation, and there's a couple of ways that he can accept it. So I will I will run this.
Yeah, so the first way to accept the invitation is through an email. You will get an email similar to this, and there is a link that you can click, and that will accept the invitation and make you part of that group under the role that was specified. The other way is within InfraWorks. It will show up a notice where it will say that you have a pending invitation, and if you click on it, you will see the invitation there, which you can accept. And as soon as that invitation is accepted, the model that was published into that group that you were invited to will appear in your home screen, and now you can download it and work on that model with the role that you were assigned within that group.
Okay, so that's that. That's the end of that workflow. Now let's talk about how we're going to collaborate. So we've chosen to work, we're going to each have our own proposals, and we're going to work in separate proposals for a while before we bring our work together. So let's see how we open the model, how we create new proposals, and how we how that appears, what interfaces we use for that. So I'm going to create a new design in a new proposal. So I'm in the master proposal. I have an empty lot here that I want to do a site design. And so I have, I'm just bringing that into your view so you can see it. I have already prepared a proposal called Library, where I've added a design for the new library. So I'm switching to that proposal, and you can see the site design there. Meanwhile, Isaac is working on another proposal to prepare the roadways. So he's in that proposal now. He prepared it before. There it is. What he's working on is, oh, by the way, he copied that proposal from the master. So it has no library on the empty lot yet. He's working on the bridges and the roads. He's bringing in the vehicles. He's preparing the area around the site so that we can do a traffic analysis. He might be putting in design roads or component roads and just working around the site that I'm working on. So now we have two proposals with finished work in each. And we have been syncing all the way along, and I'm going to cover that in the next section. But we think it doesn't, really in this case we're working in separate areas, each in our own proposal, so we're not really interfering with each other's work. But now let's go and see what happens when we want to bring our work together. So in this workflow, we're going to merge our proposals into a final design, and then I'll just show you how we do the sync, although you will have been syncing all the way along. So we want to combine our work into a final proposal. So here we are in the master, and there's that empty lot. So I'm just kind of proving that this is the master. I'm doing a visual check. The bridges haven't been altered here. And I want to create a new proposal called Final. So I add a new one. I type in the name. And it's an exact copy of the master at that point in time. And you can see it looks, the visual check, that's exactly what it is. I go into the menu item beside the I, down to the Proposals button, and I open the Proposal panel. And this is where I'm going to do the merging of two proposals into the final. So I'm in the final. I go to the Merge button. So I'm in final. I check. I want to bring library in, so that one is highlighted. Okay. So this is now merging all the changes from library into the final proposal, and I just check. over on the left side, and there's my library site design in place. So the next thing I want to do is bring in those roads and bridges and the traffic. So again, I go to the Merge button. I'm bringing the roadways proposal into the final one. And we're done. So now, if you look at your proposals list, you'll see them all. Final, library, roadways, the master, there they all are. And here is, let me just pause for a minute here. Just as a side note, the proposals panel does have information about the differences between this proposal, we're in final, but it actually compares to the master. So it shows all the objects that have been added, modified, removed, and so on, compared to the master. It's just an interesting piece of information for you to explore. And here we are, we have our final proposal. Both our work from both of us is in it, and we can now share this outside to our stakeholders. Now, here we want to talk about the sync. So I'm going to just show you how to go through the steps, but in fact you should be syncing all the time. Sync during the day when you're working, sync before you go home at the end of the day. The more often you sync, the fewer changes you have to sync. So sync with the cloud all the time. And here's how you do it. At the top is the sync button. You'll get a dialog that shows you, in this case we're going to trigger our web views to be created as well. There's the proposal I made, the final. It's going to be pushed to the cloud. You can hover and see who made change, or when changes were made, whether they were made in the cloud or locally. And there's a good spot at the bottom to add a note that describes your changes. So that will become visible to the team. They can look at the history of the syncs and they can see who did what. So try and remember to add a note. Here I'm saying I merged the two proposals into the final, and I click the sync button and the process takes place. And we're done. So now we
Sarah,
have...
Sarah, yeah, before we move forward, there was an interesting question. Just to clarify, someone was asking if there was the possibility to compare two proposals or even to be able to see two proposals at once, kind of like the different viewports in AutoCAD.
Right. The capability isn't in the product at this point. Comparing them in the same view, like a split screen and so on, so you can't compare them visually that way. When we go on in the presentation, you will see how to create scenarios. So scenarios are tied to proposals, and you can create a separate scenario, two separate scenarios, one for each proposal. View them in your web view. That's one way, but not currently in the desktop. Okay, so let's move on. Now, let's just go over a few of the tips for working with proposals. So in our case, so you can do many different ways. Just agree as a team with how you're going to do this. But in our case, we leave the master as is because we went to all the work of bringing in our data and getting it accurate. The GIS data, the as-is data. So we want to leave that. So we can always pull off of it in the future if we need to. In our case, we created the library proposal from the master, we created roadways from master, and even our final one, everything was created from master. We could have spawned a new proposal from any one of these, but this way it's just we felt that we could control it a bit better this way. So we did our work in separate proposals. I worked in library, Isaac worked in roadways. We could have worked in the same, and the sync would have merged all our changes together, but as I said, we like to control things, so we did it separately until we were ready, and then we merged into, again, another separate proposal. This gives us a way to review it and to make sure that we're happy with the merging, and if we don't like it, we can get rid of this and our original work is still intact. And as I said, you know, we need to sync often, we need to share out with the rest of the team, we need to communicate with the team about what we're working on so that that we're not stepping on each other's work. Now we're finished with the collaboration between the team that's doing the design and editing, and now we're talking about how do we share the designs with people outside that design team. So the way we do it is to create web views and scenarios for sharing out. So let's go to how we do that. So make sure you're in the correct proposal. We're in the final, and we want to create a scenario. I'm just going to pause because that went fairly quickly. So we go to the presentation menu, and we go to the scenario browser, and that's how you create a new scenario. And we're in the desktop. So we create a new one. A panel comes up that lets us name it. Move that over so we can see our model. We make sure that this is the proposal we want to publish, and we define an area of interest. So in our case, we are interested in the library site and the roadways around it, so we just create this rectangle. This will be the extent of the scenario. We decided that we will open this up to the public, so with a link they'll be able to come in and look, and I've prepared a storyboard that orbits around the library, and I'll include that. So once we're done, we just sync, make sure that this top item is checked to generate the web views, write a note, and sync. Now, when it's finished, you'll notice there's a little message that says it will take some time to prepare the web views of your model, and when they're done, you'll be sent an email. And you can also look over at the status here, and you will see that they're generating. So what is this going to look like? So you'll use a web browser. You'll go and look at the InfraWorks 360 site. When you click on the model, there's a preview here for you to enjoy, panoramas. So this is the web view of the Salzburg site. There's a panorama that was done through a bookmark, but right now we're actually going to focus on the scenario. That's the 3D view. There's the area of interest that we carved out. Let's go into it now. So it will display that scenario in one of the web pages. When it first comes in, we find that it's not quite at the fidelity we like, so we can go in and increase the level of detail, which helps. Okay. And we can navigate through this 3D scenario on our own with our, pan and zoom, so we can inspect it as we wish. Or we can go to the storyboard, that library orbit, and it'll simply execute the storyboard walkthrough for us. So that was just a kind of a preview of what it's like, what are you creating when you're creating these web views and scenarios. So the next way to collaborate is, so everything's in place. Now let's talk about how people can comment back and forth. So we're in the desktop. I'm signed in as myself. And let's look at how we can initiate, we can start the commenting process. I just need to get there. I went one page too far. So let's talk about how we start the commenting. So I'm going to add a comment from the desktop to tell people to, start discussing. There's the comment button. It opens the design feed panel. And in this case, actually, I'm going to put a marker on the library site so that they can jump there very quickly. And note here, I'm sending it to the library scenario. That's where my comment is going. So take a note of that button there. And I'm saying to people, send your comments about the new library site. And so that's my posting. Now let's look at the other's perspective. They can post comments in the scenario back to me. So one of the reviewers opens the web view, opens the scenario, and as we discussed, they can scroll around and move around at any way they wish. And they open the comment panel, and they see that I'm asking them to give feedback. They click the marker and it takes them to the spot that I've highlighted, and they make a reply. And so this person's interested in looking more at the roads right next to the library, see if it can handle the volume. And they post it. So it's just back and forth between people viewing the scenario and people in the desktop. Here we're back in the desktop. We're in the right proposal. Let's look at their comment. And there's Pat's comments that came from the scenario. And there's a few things to explore in this comment interface, which is you can set it to open, resolve, closed. Once it's closed, you can delete it. You can reply to it. There's a few things to explore as you do that. Okay. So we're finished with the major workflows. So to sum up, basically with InfraWorks 360, you can share your models in the cloud. You can exchange your work and ideas with collaborators regardless of location and time zone. You can comment and gather feedback using the design feed and basically work together to finalize the designs. So we'll pause now in case there's any comments or questions to cover. And I'll put the slide up.
Yeah, Sara, so there were some interesting questions that I've been answering and typing the answers, so I want to bring them up. The first one, quite a few people ask about any changes that, after you create a proposal, or in our case, our final proposal, if there are any changes to the master proposal because you are refining the model, how can I bring those to the final proposal?
Right. So it's not live connected to the master. So those proposals are not automatically pulling in changes from the master. But just as we did the merge from one proposal to another, you can do a merge from master into another proposal. So it's a way to bring in some changes someone's done. Maybe they've done some maintenance work on the roads or brought in the latest data. You can merge them into any proposal. Another way people have had success, but is to do a select in the source proposal, select some objects, copy, and then move to your new proposal and paste them.
All right. So I have another question here. They're asking, are there notifications that tell you comments have been added, or do you have to look in the proposal to see them?
I believe you have to be in the proposal. When you get into the interface experiment, there's filters. It tries to filter you to the proposal you're in. You can, at the top, you can expose all of them so that you can see all the comments from all the proposals interleaved. But yes, you need to be in the model, in InfraWorks, either the scenario or the desktop. and in the proposal that you're discussing.
So I think I have a question here for Eric. I don't know if he knows the answer. Somebody's asking if there is a tunnel or bridge module for InfraWorks, or if we're working on one of those. I don't really have the answer, but maybe Eric, do you know about that?
Well, of course we do have a bridge module, but at this time there aren't any plans to create a separate vertical application for tunnels. But however, we do have tunnel functionality in the core product.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
Sure.
So somebody's commenting that they had a better luck with paste in place variant that just paste when copying objects from one proposal to another. With paste, you still need to place the object. Now, copy and paste, it may be a way to work with InfraWorks, but our recommended way is actually using the proposals and doing merges. There's some intelligence within InfraWorks when you do the merge. So, you know, you can always, if you follow what Sara was doing of merging your changes to a final proposal, you can always take a look at the result, and if you don't like it, you can go back to the master or any of the proposals you had before. So, but that way you leverage the intelligence that InfraWorks has, you know, through the merge process.
That's right.
So here's another question about if the web view is specific for project participants, will you need an Autodesk login to access via the project admin?
So web views, okay. When you add people to a group, whether they're inside, they're your team collaborators that are editing the model, or they're outside people, or they're, you know, people that aren't actively editing the model, their names go in your group. Those people, and you add their A360 email name. So if they're in your group and you publish a model to that group and web views are created, all those people can sign in with their A360 login and they can see those web views. There is the possibility, you saw me check public on the scenarios. The scenarios can be viewed by anybody who has the link if you make it public. The public can then just go and look at it, but the commenting is not available to the public. The commenting is available to those who log in with and who are explicitly invited. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I have somebody ask also if there is a way to merge proposals from a different model.
That, not to my knowledge. What do you know about that, Eric?
Yeah, the only thing I can think of there is cut and paste and maybe some unsupported methods of accessing the data. But yeah, that's a little trickier. While I'm thinking about it, something that if one of you, Sara or Isaac, want to address and maybe clarify, there were some changes recently in the latest version about what it means to access a project where you're only a reader, where it actually changes the interface. Are you guys aware of that? Can you talk about that, or would you like me to talk about that?
Sure. If you we can do. Why don't you start, and we'll add what we know too.
Okay. Well, you may be able to correct some things too, because I'm sure you have a better idea than me. But with this latest version of InfraWorks 360, you know, early in Sara's presentation, she talked about inviting someone to your group and assigning a role, and at the very bottom was the reader role, which has the least amount of privileges. Basically, it just lets you read the model. Well, what we did in this latest version is if you're only a reader in a group and you open a model from that group, it actually opens it in a quote-unquote read-only mode. So a lot of your functionality in the software is disabled, and It actually says at the top on the title bar, I think it says read only. But this is to create a true read-only experience. So if you're sharing a model with someone and you don't want them to be able to touch that model as far as making changes, and that includes making a copy of it and changing it and posting it again, that has all been disabled because it's now truly a read-only experience for them. So how'd I do, Sarah? Did I get it?
Yes, and so you get access to the desktop, so you can install the desktop, and you'll see tiles, model tiles on your home screen, and they'll have a little lock on them, so you're a reader for that model only. When you go in, you'll see many of the menus are disabled because you don't have editing privileges. But it's a way to be able to explore the model and the different proposals, navigate through and get a really high fidelity experience. Our customers have been telling us that they want this way for people to get into the model like their stakeholders and look around and navigate without touching the model and affecting it, editing it by mistake. So it's a way to do it again through a different client, other than the web browser. It's a way to get a look at the model without making any changes to it. Okay.
I'd like to bring up another
Isaac,
question that came pretty early in the presentation, and that was about Android devices. And again, correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, but because the web viewer way of sharing is browser-based, it's supported by most browsers, including those that you would find on Android devices. In fact, I have opened those views on my Android phone. I don't know what our official stance is on supporting Android, but I have physically done it, opened web views on my Android phone. So, Sarah, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, there is the iPad has a native application for viewing the web views. The browser-based views, there are many browsers supported, so it's good that you can do it on an Android mobile device. I believe there is a plug-in, so it's good that it works, but I don't believe there's a native app for the Android.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think unless Isaac, you see some other questions that I didn't, or anything else is on your mind, I think the questions have settled down.
Okay, Isaac, if you can speak to this slide, then I have one more with some more tips for everyone. I just want to make sure the next slide's on long enough. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so as Eric said at the beginning, one of the goals here of this webcast is to put you in contact with the product teams and the engineering teams so that we understand what the features and the requirements are for InfraWorks 360. And so I want you to feel free to contact me at any time. You can use that email that you see there and send me any suggestions, any feedback, any issues that you run into. And if it's something that is part of my team, we'll make sure that we discuss it or maybe contact you back with some solutions or answers. If it's part of some other team, we will escalate those issues. We will let them know. But I really want you to feel free to contact me at any time. And we also like to conduct interviews with users frequently. So if you think you can be available to participate in these interviews, and most of the time what we do in them is going over new features that we are working on and doing some customer validation, some user validation on those features and compile feedback. But it will also help you to drive how InfraWorks 360 is evolving as an application and especially how these cloud services will evolve in the future. So it's a good opportunity for you to influence how these services work. So if you are interested in participating in these interviews and meet with us, as frequently as you can, then please send me an email to that address that you see there on the screen, and we will contact you and set up something to talk to you. Okay?
Thanks, Isaac.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to go one more slide and just leave this up for long enough that the recording will pick it up. We'll go through a few things. So some extra tips and tricks. So remember that we have to publish the model to the cloud to be able to collaborate. So if you start your model locally from scratch and you bring in your own data sources, you have to actually go through an explicit publishing process to get it to the cloud. Model builder models already start in the cloud, so you're already there. You just have to open it, and you can collaborate. People ask about sharing models on network drives or using services such as Google Drive or Box, but these do have unexpected results. So if you share on Google Drive, for example, we recommend just sharing by zipping the model files and sharing them that way. If you try to share all the files and database elements, apparently Google Drive renames some of the files, and so they don't work together. You remember when we were in the group membership interface, so we didn't go through the admin permissions, but it is done there on that last tab of the group membership dialog box, and you can explore that. Basically, admins are assigned by account, so they basically have privileges across your entire account. So you'll just want a few people to have admin permissions, and they make the decisions about who's added and removed from the groups. One thing about when you're working in proposals, just be aware of which proposal you're in. Look up to the top there and make sure you're editing the right one. Some people forget, and they either create new proposals off an unintended one, or they mistakenly edit someone else's proposal. And when we talk about merges, the merging is done both when you sync to the cloud and when you merge from one proposal to another. So you can experiment, but the merge results do vary. The logic varies depending on what is the source and what is the target. And in a sync with the cloud, your local changes will, if you and someone else were editing the same thing, your local changes will generally win over the changes in the cloud. And as I showed you before, the proposal panel does show diffs, but it is a diff from the master, not between the proposals. The system actually tracks all those proposals as diffs from the master, and so that was just exposed in the panel, so it's there for you to explore and see if you can find useful information in it. We talked about scenarios being created against a certain proposal. So you can create multiple scenarios. I had only one in my list, but you can create multiple scenarios, some in the same proposal, some all in different proposals as well. And as we talked about, you can access those web views with any web browsers or an iPad. And that's the end of this presentation. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, Sarah, I'm going to take back control of the presentation for just a minute. And I just want to remind everyone that our next webcast will be in 2 weeks, Wednesday, October 21st. And this is part 2 of Wes Newman's webcast on scripting. So if you enjoyed that webcast and you want to learn even more and be able to do more crazy stuff with InfraWorks 360 that it's not even designed to do, then this is for you. And if you missed the first one, go to the community site, find the recording of the last one, and review that. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for attending. We hope to see you around the community, the forum, and Facebook and Twitter, and all the different ways that you can interact with the community of InfraWorks 360 users, and also back at future webcasts as part of this series. So thanks, have a great day, and see you all later.